I manage a small team and I'm really struggling with the performance of a direct report. We get along great, but they're not performing at the level I need. How can I broach this topic with them?
Directly, clearly, in a timely manner, and with clear expectations. As a starting point, nobody should ever be surprised when they're getting an annual review, or if you do reviews a couple times a year, they should never get surprised. So anything that's ever in a written review should have been brought to someone's attention well in advance. Because if someone's surprised on a written review, it's like you're putting something in that they haven't had a chance to work on, and then you're documenting it. So that's not the place to put this in. You have to have a conversation with them in advance. And in that, you could follow up in writing, like just send an email, which I think is ultra good practice, but you have to tell people in advance of their review. And like all sorts of reasons around that, like people are like nervous about reviews, even if they're going to get a good one. Like it doesn't really set the stage for something productive to happen. And it can be super diminishing if people feel like they're just being surprised by something. You got to have clear, direct conversation with people. It's got to be timely, and there has to be clear outcomes that you're shooting for. So it sucks, especially if you like someone, to like give them tough feedback. What I encourage you to do is give them that direct feedback, but put it like, say like, hey, I'll send them an email in advance and say, hey, I want to give you some feedback on your performance in this meeting we've got coming up, and tell them in advance that you're going to be doing this. You might even want to put in advance what the feedback is. The reason I encourage you to do that is if you don't do that, that means when you're giving someone the feedback, they are going to be hearing it for the first time, processing it, and then also trying to manage their reaction to that while they're speaking to you. It's a lot to give to someone. You can give someone just some bullet points in advance, be like, hey, I'm going to give you some feedback right now. It's going to be brief and targeted feedback, and we're going to also meet about it on Tuesday because I want you to have some time to think about it. And then you can give them the feedback and then meet with them afterwards. My preference is giving them an email about it. You can even let them know that you're going to give them the email about it. The reason I'd say give them the email, and don't go full blast in the email. The email should be short, clear, and concise, but give it to them in an email just so they have time to acclimate themselves to it. They've collected their thoughts. They're ready to have the conversation and then go in and have the full conversation. So it should be clear and direct. Then you should have the fulsome conversation. And then at the end of that, you give them a call to action. And the call to action should have like what the next steps are. I want to add in the timely piece here. People should be getting timely feedback. So if something happens, you should be telling people within 2 weeks of that event. If it's outside of 2 weeks, the event has like passed, it's too far, and people's memory of it changes over time. So best if it's within a couple days of it, a week, but 2 weeks maximum is where you can start giving someone, or is where the expiration date comes from giving someone like timely feedback. And if you have been sitting on this for a while and you haven't given them feedback this whole time, then really you've been doing them quite the disservice. So that means that in advance, far in advance of a review, you need to sit down and give them the real deal feedback. So again, put it in writing first, just in an email. It doesn't have to be super formal. Just be like, here are the things I want to talk to you about. Then you have the fulsome conversation. That fulsome conversation should be space where you're giving them feedback first. That's the first part of the conversation. Then they can give you all the feedback they want. They can ask you any question they want. That's the second part of the conversation. Then the third part of the conversation is the two of you come up and create a plan. This is where the call to action comes in. Call to action is how we should be ending all meetings. All meetings should have a call to action. So a call to action is what are the things that are going to happen next? And it could be, here are the things I'm going to do, or it could be, here are the things I want you to do, or it could be a combination. Here are the things I'm going to do, here are the things you're going to do. So you're creating that action plan as a third movement of the conversation. But the thing around the action plan, it has to be precise. So a call to action has to be three things. It's got to be concrete. So what are the specific things that are going to happen? Like, what are the ways that this person can start improving more? Like, you got to break that down into actual tangible things, or they need to, because a call to action could also be, okay, I want you to come up with a plan of how you're going to improve, and then come back and present it to me next Tuesday. That's fine too, as long as it's concrete. So it's got to be concrete items, even if you're just getting them to do it, but it's also got to be timely. So timely means when it's going to be done. And then it's got to be assignable. Am I doing it? Are they doing it? Or are we getting someone else to do it? So call to action, concrete, timely, assignable. So three movements of the conversation, you give them the feedback. They don't interrupt you. They just hear you. Second, they take the stage. They ask every question. They give their feedback. You have it. Third movement is you create a plan, and the plan is concrete, timely, and assignable. Giving people tough feedback sucks. I hate doing it. Nobody wakes up in the morning and is super psyched to do it, but you're doing them a disservice about it. I'd also say you're doing yourself and the team a disservice. So people are the happiest with their boss when their boss gives them clear, direct feedback and invests in them. And people are also their happiest at work when they're part of a team that operates at the highest level. And the team only operates at the highest level when people get clear and direct feedback, and that a boss is willing to work with them on that feedback.